Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk. We're broadcasting from the studios of the Caribbean Media Corporation, Bridgetown, Barbados. In this episode, our special guest is Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, David Commissiong. Wayne Holder is also here, and the Ambassador will be chatting with us. I'm Philip Hackett, and you're watching Anything Cricket. Let's talk.
CaribVision is now included in the OneSpot Media subscription package. It's simple. Search for onespotmedia.com, then log in, scroll over to the Live TV and Radio tab, and select CVTV from the drop-down menu, and watch the latest in Caribbean culture, news, and sports. It's that simple. CaribVision is now on OneSpot Media. Subscribe today. onespotmedia.com.
We're very pleased to welcome you to Anything Cricket. Let's talk, Ambassador.
Thank you, Philip. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, very good to see you in this forum, especially. And in fact, that brings something to mind. Wayne Holder told me that he has a burning question for you right at the outset. Wayne.
I wonder what that could be.
Well, welcome, Ambassador. It is a privilege to be sharing this forum with you. But the question, David Commissiong, CARICOM Ambassador, what do you know of cricket?
Wayne. What a question. Well, my answer would be that it is impossible to have grown up in the Caribbean, and particularly in Barbados, especially in the decade of the 70s, and not know about cricket. You know, cricket is part of our lifeblood. Cricket is so central to who we are, to our culture, that any public person must have an interest in and some knowledge of this tremendous game.
And you mentioned Caribbean, because I happen to know that you've got connections not only in Barbados, but in at least one other area of the Caribbean. I mean, as growing up.
Yeah, well, I was born in St. Vincent, but I also went to primary school in Trinidad. And I can well recall back in those days as schoolboys at primary school, when we played cricket, every bowler was Wes Hall, and every schoolboy batsman was Sobers. And,
or can I?
Well, back in those days, I is Sobers and I is Wes Hall. You know, those were back in Trinidad, because you know, Wes Hall did do quite a bit of work in Trinidad in the late 60s. But those were our two great folk heroes, Sir Garfield Sobers and now Sir Wesley Hall. And then I came to Barbados, into secondary school, into Harrison College with Philip Hackett here. So
And they couldn't find anywhere else to put him to sit but next to me.
Well, I wouldn't hold it against either of you.
Well, we know Wayne is a Lodge boy, and for viewers, the big rivalry in Barbados in those days was Harrison College against Lodge. In everything, academics, cricket, track and field, you name it. But coming to live in Barbados, I came directly into a much more intense cricket culture than I had experienced in Trinidad. Back then, you just had to live in Barbados to absorb the game of cricket. I mean, we played cricket, you know, every day, at school, after school, before school, in the lunch break, on weekends and long holidays. You know, cricket was really and truly the national sport. Some would say the national religion. So I guess I picked up a little bit about the game over the years.
And your position as ambassador to CARICOM, first of all, I would want to ask, what is the ambassador to CARICOM? I mean, if it may be, what's your job description? What's the job description?
Well, very quickly, so I represent Barbados's interests in CARICOM. So anything to do with CARICOM, any of the meetings of the organs, the councils of CARICOM, the agenda of CARICOM, that is my responsibility. And as you would know, part of the agenda of CARICOM is cricket, although I haven't had the opportunity to really engage with that aspect of the CARICOM agenda in the 20 months or so I've been on the job. But as you would know, there's CARICOM, there's a subcommittee, a heads of government subcommittee on cricket. In addition to being the Barbados ambassador to CARICOM per se, I'm also expected to be Barbados's non-resident high commissioner to the various CARICOM member states. So thus far, I've been accredited to Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But it's a process of getting my letter of introduction to all of the heads of government of the other 14 member states. So that's basically what I do.
So that puts the CARICOM ambassador hat out of the way. Now let's talk about David Commissiong, the cricket fanatic.
Well, I mean, let's face it, though. I mean, born in St. Vincent, you spent some time in Trinidad, and you had your secondary education in Barbados. So I really can't think of better credentials for a position like the one you hold.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Caribbean man. I come from a Caribbean family. My father was a Methodist minister of religion, and they have a tradition of moving all across the Caribbean. So he lived and worked in 8 different Caribbean countries. So that's my whole experience, my orientation. Yes, I'm enjoying the posting, and Philip is my old schoolmate, and Wayne is my current workmate.
An old rival.
I don't know if viewers know that Wayne works at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so we are workmates. But I am enjoying the assignment. I think that CARICOM is critical for us to go forward in the Caribbean. I think that message is sinking in as we see the tremendous challenges that we have to face, and I think we're all getting to realize that we can't do it alone. We need that Caribbean unity if we are to go forward.
And while we talk about those challenges, you're in an ideal position to get a view throughout the region. And how has it really, from your perspective, impacted on the crisis, the global crisis we are now facing, COVID-19? What sort of impact has that had? First of all, from a CARICOM perspective, but then we want to zero in on the sporting and specifically cricket perspective.
Well, God help us if we didn't have CARICOM, if we didn't have this regional integration movement to assist us through this crisis, because the CARICOM institutions kicked into action a few months ago. From the time this thing broke in China, you've had the CARICOM CARFA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, which is headquartered in Trinidad, our public health agency. They have been on the job. The Regional Security System, CDIMA, CARICOM Impacts, the Implementation Agency for Crime and Security. So the CARICOM institutions have been doing a tremendous job just keeping this region as safe from the coronavirus as we have been able to keep it safe thus far. In addition to that, last weekend, our Council for Finance and Planning, where we bring together the ministers of economic affairs and finance, came together to look at the economic fallout and how we can collectively alleviate the economic fallout. So the regional institutions are working to help protect the region, both in terms of public health, but also in terms of the economy. And were it not for the regional institutions, we would have been much more exposed.
We've heard so often over the years that one of the unifying forces in the region is cricket. And I can't think of any aspect of life really that's not going to be impacted by what's going on. But if you look at cricket and the impact that will have on players, on just with everybody else, all stakeholders, how much does that really put at risk the whole legacy of cricket and the looking forward where that unity and working together in that profession of cricket, where that could possibly take us? How much really is at risk here?
Well, you know, I was intrigued that the West Indies Cricket Board made an offer to the English Cricket Board, offering the West Indies as a possible venue, both for the England-West Indies tour and also the England-Pakistan series. And it's left to be seen how the England Cricket Board will respond. But you know, if there, and we know this is within the context of all kinds of sports being shut down all over the world, basketball, football, all kinds of sports. But you know, if there's one sport that might be able to go on in the environment of this kind of crisis, that sport may very well be cricket. First of all, it is a non-contact sport. Secondly, it is a sport that is very television friendly. In fact, you can probably enjoy cricket better and appreciate it better watching it on television than being there live in the stadium.
Certainly from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, you can, you know, and so it's the kind of sport that you could put it on for a television audience. You don't necessarily, I mean, you've seen cricket matches played in stadiums that are virtually empty, but yet television audiences all over the world are enjoying the game. So I'm not predicting that the English Cricket Board will take up the offer, but you can see how, with a little thought, a little effort and planning, that it might well be possible to bring two teams together to do a cricket match for a television audience, and so we will see. But you know. I was saying to many colleagues today that this week has been an extremely depressing week. You know, so many things have shut down. So many initiatives we were working on and were really looking forward to. Frustratingly, just the plug pull just shut down, and sport. So almost all of the activities that human beings get enjoyment from. Concerts, going to church, you know, fraternizing in bars and restaurants, sporting activities, shutting down. So it's a real blow. It is a real blow. It's difficult to say how it will all work out, and but I'm just thinking that if there is one sport that might be able to brook the trend, and the administrators could find a way to carry it on, that's the sport that perhaps has the best potential for that, in my opinion, would be cricket.
Well, we're going to discuss the way forward, you know, given the current challenges, and especially as they relate to cricket. But after we take a break on anything cricket, let's talk.
CARICOM is now included in the OneSpot Media subscription package. It's simple. Search for onespotmedia.com, then log in, scroll over to the Live TV and Radio tab, and select CVTV from the drop-down menu, and watch the latest in Caribbean culture, news, and sports. It's that simple. CARICOM is now on OneSpot Media. Subscribe today.
onespotmedia.com.
Welcome back. Well, Ambassador, I've been, I guess quite rudely, asked about your cricket background. I suppose he doesn't really know that you would have scored a couple of runs as a schoolboy, and you would have even done a bit more since that as well, you know, along with the political career, so to speak. Tell us about that.
Philip, yes. I was waiting for that question, Philip.
Okay.
Because I need to let the regional audience know that I once top scored for Barbados against England at the Mecca, Kensington Oval.
You can't do better than that.
Well, it's you know, so
I'm sure you will clarify the conditions under which you were playing for Barbados
I was wondering
and against England.
which tour match that was, which year.
Well, at the time, I was a member of the Senate of Barbados, and it was the Barbados Parliament against the English House of Commons. So I had the pleasure of playing with men like Sir Wesley Hall. Yeah. So anyhow, so that's just a little bit of my cricketing background, Philip. We won't delve.
No, we wouldn't delve too deep into that. There are other things that Wayne wants to delve into.
But yeah, we will stop at the top score, his greatest moment. Ambassador, you mentioned earlier in the first half of the show the CARICOM Cricket Committee. And one of the driving issues in West Indies cricket a couple of years ago, under a previous regime, was the issue of governance, the governance structure of cricket West Indies and cricket in the West Indies generally. One has noticed that with the advent of the new administration, that question has somewhat gone under the radar. I remember immediately after the election that brought this regime to power just a little more than a year ago, I was speaking to an official of the Cricket West Indies, someone who works with Cricket West Indies, and I put a question as to if he thought that maybe we will see some action now with this new president and his officers, if we would see some action on that matter of the governance structure. His response to me was, Wayne, have you ever seen a turkey vote for Thanksgiving? And quite noticed, I have observed that the issue of governance structure of West Indies cricket has not come up since we've had the change of regime. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, we could even relate it to national politics. You know, when people are in opposition, they say certain things about constitutional change and the Prime Minister having too much power, and there need to be a constitutional amendment to take away so much power from the Prime Minister. But then when they win the election and they become the Prime Minister, those issues no longer feature. So it might be a similar kind of situation. No doubt, with the change of personnel at the West Indies Cricket Board, there's a much better relationship between the management of the WICB, the president and the other officers, and the CARICOM heads of government. You know, the CARICOM heads of government had a very tumultuous relationship with the previous Dave Cameron administration. And, but the fundamental problem still remains, because it's okay changing personalities. So some new personalities might come on board that you could work with, or good people, but where's the guarantee that in the next election you're going to get these quote unquote good personalities? So you might very well be back at square one. So there's also a structural problem to be addressed. And all of that work done by the P.J. Patterson Commission, all of the work done by Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Gonzalez.
And there was also the principal
Sir Hillary.
Eugene Barreto.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, all of that work which pointed to the need for institutional reforms. And I think that having a new president and new officers that you get along with is no substitute for dealing with the institutional reforms. I personally feel that the board, the structure needs to be more democratic, more participatory. I think the structure would have been the basic structure put in place back in around 1927 or so, when West Indies got test status. And you had these, in every island, you had these elite cricket associations. in Barbados is the Barbados Cricket Association. We know that we had the grassroots Barbados Cricket League, but in terms of the regional governance and structure of the game, it is the elite Barbados Cricket Association that is privileged. And I think that in this more democratic age, we probably need to relook who should be the legitimate stakeholders. We should probably need to broaden it more and democratize it more. And certainly, there can be no excuse for the West Indies Cricket Board being a company incorporated in a jurisdiction outside of the Caribbean community, and therefore not subject to oversight by the Supreme Court of the Caribbean. And so those are things that really need to be addressed. And so yes, so I'm glad I was one of those clamoring for a change of administration. Yeah, and I found the Cameron administration toxic, really toxic in terms of its relationships with the players, in terms of its whole approach to the game.
You know, my mom or my grandmother, I think one of them or both, used to say too far east is west, and I'm sure we've all heard that saying before. There are those who feel that the new administration may be going too far the other side now, and be too accommodating, especially of the older players, those who would have suffered under the regime you talked about. To what extent would you say this administration has maybe gone too far in accommodating the older players?
Well, admittedly, I'm not looking at it as closely as yourself or Wayne, as people directly involved with the game. But I would say, as a citizen of the Caribbean, just looking on in an interested way, I would not say I've seen, I would make that criticism yet. I would say yes, maybe there are signs of
I mean, I'm talking about things like bringing back Dwayne Bravo without any real cricket behind him after his injury. That would be one of the major things. And then if you want to look at it a little bit more closely, the issue of replacing Holder and Braffett, not that they could not have been replaced, but by replacing both of Kyron Pollard, who some believe had not always shown the commitment that he should have. And then on top of that, Braffett, the T20 captain, hasn't played since. And Jason Holder's place in the T20 side seems very much under threat.
Yes, and you know, Wayne and I discuss these things from time to time at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And yes, I would admit to some unease about the things you speak about. But I don't, at this stage, for me, it would not be more than just unease. I'm looking at it. I would not come down in any hard and fast way in terms of imposing a judgment. So yes, a few things that causes one a little bit of unease, but still watching it. I don't think they have thus far done anything so egregious that you would want to make a definitive negative judgment. But yes, some little cause for us.
You see it the same way, Ben?
Well, as the ambassador says, it's early days yet. I do have my personal concerns regarding, for instance, you mentioned the place of a Jason Holder in the white ball setup, and I still somewhat taken aback at the total exclusion of Carlos Brathwaite from West Indies cricket ever since this change was brought about. I mean, there are questions to be answered there. You know, here is a man who was the captain. Here's a man with 100 in the last World Cup. I don't think we have forgotten that yet, as short as our memories might
well, the
be.
selectors may have, but John Public certainly hasn't.
And then we have a situation, you mentioned Dwayne Bravo. Dwayne Bravo, who plays in a capacity similar to a Carlos Brathwaite without any distinct performance
That is superior.
to merit immediate inclusion in the West Indies. I'm not saying that he should not be considered, but ahead of a Carlos Brathwaite. So those are my concerns.
Let me make a case, though, for Pollard's captaincy, though, because I must confess that having watched Pollard as a captain in the CPL, I was extremely impressed by his very proactive captaincy, his marshalling of the troops. He always seemed to be in command of the situation, and very, very inspirational. You know, when if you need to take some spectacular catch to get out the man who is threatening, he always seemed to be the one to do it. So I wasn't unhappy when Pollard was made the captain, based on those personal characteristics that I had seen up close of his leadership ability and his ability to kind of inspire a team, you know. So I would say let's watch it a little longer. Let's watch it a little longer, and but at least the atmosphere in the West Indian game, the atmosphere is a much more pleasant and constructive one than it was under the previous regime.
Well, you know what? You believe that we should watch it a bit longer. I would like to invite our viewers to watch a bit longer as well. We'll be back in a short while after another break on Anything Cricket. Let's talk.
Carib Vision is now included in the OneSpot Media subscription package. It's simple. Search for onespotmedia.com, then log in, scroll over to the Live TV and Radio tab, and select CVTV from the drop-down menu, and watch the latest in Caribbean culture, news, and sports. It's that simple. Carib Vision is now on OneSpot Media. Subscribe today. onespotmedia.com.
Welcome back. Well, Wayne, Ambassador, we have been looking at West Indies cricket and its significance in terms of the region. And in your position, you sit in the perfect window, really, to maybe influence somewhat the development of the sport. Yes, some current challenges now, the global health crisis. One would expect that we would get over that in some form or fashion. But really and truly, beyond that, really, how important is this game to the region from a regional perspective?
Well, for me, this game of cricket is fundamental to our Caribbean civilization. I mean, even if we look more narrowly just at our regional integration movement, our Caribbean community, one of the outstanding components of that movement is the West Indies cricket team. You know, when we talk about the record of CARICOM, I see CARICOM as a relative success. But sometimes when people think of CARICOM, they think very narrowly, CARICOM Secretariat in Georgetown and so forth. And they don't recognize that part of that integration movement is University of the West Indies, CARIFESTA, is the Crifter Games, and is very fundamentally this West Indies cricket team that binds us together, that roots us in a tradition of achievement, that gives us heroes. You know, this game is so important in so many ways. It's important. We know the work that Sir Frank Worrell did in bringing the team together, in helping to give us that regional identity. But and I tell Barbadians that if you examine the history of Barbados very carefully, you will have to credit the game of cricket for playing a very big role in civilizing what in the 19th century was a very brutal and oppressive slave society. You know, it was this game of cricket, and largely brought to this island largely by English public school headmasters that came to Barbados and were installed in the grammar schools of Barbados, Harrison College, Lodge, Combermere, who brought that English public school ethic of cricket and the importance of cricket. Then it was, of course, it was taken up. It was taken up by the working class of Barbados in the villages, and ultimately the Barbados Cricket League. And it helped to break down racial and social barriers. But it also, because it took hold at a mass level, it introduced into our culture the values of cricket, the values of fair play, of sportsmanship, etc. So, as CLR James says, this game goes way beyond a boundary. This game was fundamental to our human development, and as individual Caribbean states, but also in terms of crafting that broader collective identity that we now have as citizens of a Caribbean civilization. And it's fundamental to, if we claim that we have a civilization, that we are a civilization, that we deserve that, that category, then cricket is a big part of that civilization. You know, when we talk about our heroes, you know, and we conjure with the names, there's George Headley, Sir Frank.
Are we making enough new heroes, though?
Yeah, well, yes, the game is under threat. The game is definitely under threat. I mean, we could talk about our own country in Barbados. When I came here from Trinidad in 1971, we drank and ate cricket in Barbados. You know, it was such an intrinsic part of the culture. That is not so much the case anymore. It has slipped from that pinnacle position. And yes, we are not producing the heroes in the abundance as we did a few decades ago, and they're not held in the same high esteem and given the same social importance as some years ago. And I think our societies are the poorer for it. So we have to think outside the box. You know, back then in 1971, you didn't have to organize much in terms of cricket in Barbados. It's almost as if the game developed itself. Every community, you know, as if you read Sir Everton Weekes's biography, he would tell you that almost everybody in the village was a cricket coach. So when he practiced on an evening, he was getting expert advice from so many people because cricket was such a big part of the culture. So it has slipped. So we things that we took for granted before, we can't take for granted anymore. But the game still has a hold on the imagination and interest of our people. It behoves those in authority to understand the importance of rebuilding this game. For example, I often wonder, why isn't a show like this, for example? This should be on the national television station of Barbados. We have all kinds of television programs that people have little or no interest in. There's at least 80% of the Barbadian population will be interested in any show that discusses cricket. But yet, we would have a test series going on in Barbados, and you don't even have discussion programs about, you know,
the English style, so to speak.
You know, I mean, look at the American.
But yes, in the English and American.
All kinds of
English in terms of the cricket. You know, after days cricket, they have.
We speak of a sport that, as the ambassador said again, that marketed itself. As a matter of fact, the sport didn't even need marketing. For Kensington Oval to burst, as it seems, for a test match, it didn't need marketing. For thousands of people to turn up at Kensington Oval to watch a Shell Shield game,
no, times
it
will
didn't
change.
need marketing.
Times will change.
No, we are in changing times. How marketable, first of all, is the game, and what strategies maybe
given the performance of the team?
What strategies would you suggest?
Yes, honestly, you know, the performance of the team doesn't excite the same kind of interest. But so we need to see it as a rebuilding phase, that we have to nurture back our people's interests, and so yes, Wayne, it means that you remember once some years ago, the Nation newspaper got very much involved in a campaign to promote the West Indies cricket team. And there was a big campaign, and it brought out...
I think you were supposed to wear a particular color or
Yes,
something like
yes,
that.
and it brought out thousands and thousands of spectators to get behind. The whole idea was get behind the West Indies cricket team. And by featuring the cricket in the media and having promotional campaigns, you excited that interest. So I am saying, if we recognize how important this game is to our national culture, our national psyche. We know, Wayne and Philip, when the West Indies cricket team does well, people walk about with a smile on their face, you know,
not only here in the Caribbean,
yeah,
their
shoulders are more lifted up, and the atmosphere in the workplace is you know, lighter. So we know the sense of pride this game gives us, and therefore people like us, I guess, were spoiled because, you know, when we were teenagers and young men growing up, we just took it for granted. Yeah. We were the best in the world. And that became part of our sense of identity.
But the thing about it is, though, I mean, we've closely examined the history, the significance. We've looked at all of that, and we've even looked at some of the strategies that may be required. So maybe if you can put all that in one thought, if you will, sitting in your position as Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, what would you say then is your vision as you look forward for West Indies cricket?
Well, you know, West Indies cricket will only be as strong as the units are. So I think we have to pay attention to all of the individual units. Yes, in terms of the overall structure, I think what we spoke about before really needs to be done at the level of the CARICOM and the board of the West Indies Cricket Board. We need to more democratize the structure of the game, but the real work, so that's one level of reform, but the real solid work has to be done at the individual country level. So Barbados, for example, we need to take a national responsibility to bring back our national game, our national cricket culture, somewhere close to what it was in the 1960s and 70s. And we need to know, we need to, as I said, think outside the box. We need to know what are the innovative things that we need to do to bring that cricket heritage to our young people, to nurture and foster their interests in the game once more, to get them out to games, not only territorial games, but school games. The things we used to do, Philip, you remember we used to have form teams at Harrison College? Every form had its cricket team, and we would play form level games. So you had form level, then you had your house games.
You even had the less formal thing where during lunchtime.
Exactly.
You had these matches between teams that were selected. In fact, a former schoolmate of ours who has gone on since to be a governor, he was very instrumental. Very instrumental in organizing those games, and showed early signs. You would have thought maybe he would have turned out to be a cricket administrator, because he really had it down.
Still time.
There's still time. He really took that very seriously.
But yes, but I appreciate. I mean, it kind of. I don't feel a sense of. I don't get pleasure out of the understanding now that schools struggle to get house matches going in cricket. You know, we would have come from a culture where each house had a juniors team, an intermediate team, had a senior team, and there was competition for players in these respective teams. Nowadays, I suspect that to get one team per house could be a problem.
If I had to make
even at our respective alma mater.
If I had to make a prescription to the schools of Barbados, I would say when those youngsters come in the first form, part of the kit that they must acquire must be cricket whites and long pants, long whites as well. and I revive the form teams, but give these youngsters who have to go through the lower school dressed in short pants, the one opportunity you will get to put on a long pants in those 3 years will be on the cricket field. You know, so we can encourage.
You're virtually creating heroes there already.
Yes,
yes.
You want to impress the girls in the school, in the lower school, by wearing your long pants. You do it on the cricket field, right? But let's mass produce that kind of gear, you know, relatively cheap, that it's affordable. So there are things that could be done, and then let's teach the history of the game. Let us inspire our youth with all those tremendous exploits. I mean, we know the West Indies cricket team, the most successful team in the whole history of team sports. The only team in team sports that you know was the top of its game for close to 20 years. You know, so we have so much, and again, you go back to CLR James. It is not just a game. It is a form of communal art. It's a dramatic spectacle. It is an instrument of social engineering, of cultural development. So the people in the positions to help shape the society need to have a more holistic understanding of what this game is, what its value is to the society, and you know, let's really make the effort. My thing is, I don't think we are making sufficient effort to bring this game back to the central place we need it to play in our national culture. And these things are important because when you bestride the world and your young people are growing up in a culture in which you know you are first class in something, that goes into their own sense of personal identity, and that is extremely important.
Final thoughts, Wayne?
Well, I think that connection between government and the Cricket West Indies administration is going to be vital. And I think persons like Ambassador Commissiong have a crucial role to play if we're going to fulfill that vision of which the ambassador speaks.
Anything you want to leave with our viewers?
Well, you know, Wayne makes a good point. It's something that it does fall within my portfolio as ambassador to CARICOM, and yes, it's something that I need to look at very carefully to see what role I can play as a Barbados ambassador, so that we can do the reforms we need at that top level. But I end by insisting that as good as that is, serious work, we need to do serious work at our own national domestic level.
Thanks to Wayne, thanks to Ambassador Commissiong. We'll be back on Anything Cricket. Let's talk.
Carib Vision is now included in the OneSpot Media subscription package. It's simple. Search for onespotmedia.com, then log in, scroll over to the Live TV and Radio tab, and select CVTV from the drop-down menu, and watch the latest in Caribbean culture, news, and sports. It's that simple. Carib Vision is now on OneSpot Media. Subscribe today.
onespotmedia.com.
That's our show. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to DA Computer Services and to the Caribbean Media Corporation. Join us again soon for another episode of Anything Cricket. Let's talk.